everyone, it's Miss Angela from the Fort Worth Public Library. Welcome back to another Fort Worth Nature Center Discovery Club story time. Today we are talking about grasshoppers. This one is green. What do you know about grasshoppers? I know that they hop, that they make a chirping sound with their legs, and I bet Mr. Michael's going to tell you a whole lot more about grasshoppers later. Our song for today is Little Grasshopper, and I'm going to sing it one time through with my puppet, and then the second time I'm going to ask you to join me by making a grasshopper with your hand. Ready? Little grasshopper, hop across the grassy land. Little grasshopper, hop into my open hand. Little grasshopper, sweet and green as you can be. Little grasshopper, hop away so safe and free. Now we're going to do it with our little grasshopper. So make your hand into a grasshopper and let's get hopping. Little grasshopper, hop across the grassy land. Little grasshopper, hop into my open hand. Little grasshopper, sweet and green as you can be. Little grasshopper, hop away so safe and free. All right, great job. Our story for today is The Ant and the Grasshopper, and it is by Rebecca Emberly and Ed Emberly. They have the same last name. It's because Ed Emberly is Rebecca Emberly's dad. Isn't it cool that they make stories together? This book is a retelling of the classic fable of the ant and the grasshopper, and it's got a little New Orleans, Louisiana twist to it. And you can see here we have some other bugs in the band. Somewhere on the boulevard of backyards, an ant was struggling with the remnants of a picnic. Can you see what might be the food that the ant is carrying? It's red, and it's a triangle, and there's a little bit of black. There's a closer view. There's a green rind, a red fruit, and a black seed. Did you say watermelon? I think you might be right. Watermelons are so great for picnics. The work was hard and she was weary. With a heavy sigh, she persevered, though each blade of grass seemed to thwart her on this hot and humid day. I simply cannot go another step, she thought to herself. As she lifted her head in hopes of the smallest of breezes to cool her blistering forehead, she heard a sound, a wonderful, magical sound. Music! With a great heave, she shouldered her sticky burden and moved in the direction of the sound. She came upon a grasshopper and his buggy band, making music with complete abandon. The grasshopper looks like the grasshopper has a guitar, and the dragonfly has a cello. And this little bug, maybe a fly, has some kind of flute. And this beetle has a drum set. You see his drumsticks? The ant had never heard such joyful noise. She smiled, which on an ant can look quite strange, and listened to the music, her antenna twitching to the beat. The weariness seemed to leave her little ant body with every note they played. When the music stopped, the grasshopper called to her. Hey there, baby. Why don't you put down that big sticky thing and come groove with us? I wish I could, said the ant, already feeling a little guilty for stopping for such a long time. But I must get this back to the colony. My family will be waiting for me. Hoisting her load a little higher, she said, "Thank you for your beautiful noise. It has made my heart much lighter." The band clickety-clicked and chirruped. They were so happy to have an audience. The grasshopper hit an F chord. "We will play for you then, all the way back to your colony." Turning to his bandmates, he rasped, "Put on your walking shoes. We're hitting the road." The band was all a-buzz, buzz. The beetle was especially excited as he was the newest member of the band and had never been on the road before. The ant was home in no time, hardly noticing the heat or the heaviness of her load. "You have made my job so much easier," she said. "Your magical music moved me along. How can I ever repay you?" The grasshopper thought for a moment. "Well, baby, our music might be red hot, but we like to be cool. Sometimes it's hard to catch a break out there on the boulevard." The ant smiled her funky little smile. "It's cool under the ground in our colony. Please come and share your music, and we will have a party." "Come on, everybody, we're going underground." Les bon temps roulé. Do you know what that means? That's French for "let the good times roll." And the music made everything brighter. The end. Great listening, everyone. Now it's time to pass it over to Mr. Michael at the Nature Center to tell us more about grasshoppers. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Good morning, everyone. This is Michael Perez with the Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge. I want to thank Miss Angela for that story time. We always enjoy it. It's always a fun time. So thank you very much for helping us with that part of our program here at Discovery Club. So we're going to talk a little bit about grasshoppers today. As usual, we'll talk about what a grasshopper is. We'll talk about some of the different, day-to-day things that they encounter. Talk about the food web. And then we're going to go out and see if we can capture some grasshoppers and maybe some other insects like leafhoppers and things like that, but focusing on grasshoppers. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, grasshoppers we see all around us, summertime particularly. Now, right now, if you come out to the Nature Center and visit us, yes, we are open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., so definitely come and join us. If you come out and visit us in Nature Center, you walk in the prairie, which is right down from our parking lot and our visitor center, you're going to experience grasshoppers. They are out there. Now, the ones you see right now are pretty small, and we're going to get to that here in a second. So grasshoppers are a very important animal. So here's like a finger puppet of a grasshopper. Now, a reminder, grasshoppers are insects. So you should know by now, but we're going to review anyway because we may have some new viewers. Or maybe you've slept a few times and don't remember. But grasshoppers are insects, and insects are animals that have 3 body parts. Okay, so 3 body parts. They have a head, so you can see there's his big old head. On his head, he has eyes. He has antenna. Those antenna help him to feel and to smell. And then he has his mouth parts as well, where he's eating. The second part of an insect is the thorax, which is this middle part. It's like a band, it looks like, on this particular grasshopper. And that's where his legs are attached. Now, when you look at his legs, you can see he has 6 legs like all insects do. But his legs are a little bit different than some of the other insects. His first 2 pair, these 4 in the front there, he kind of looks like a X, if you will. Those front 4, those help him with walking. So he uses those to walk, and he can go pretty slow. He's not very fast. He's using those legs. But those last 2 legs, the back pair that you see back there, they have a lot of muscle there for a grasshopper. And those are to help him to perform his really big leaps and jumps and hopping across the prairie and avoiding predators. Excuse me. So those are very, very important to help him to escape predators and to get around. So that's the thorax, and it has the 6 legs. The last part of an insect is the abdomen. That's the bottom part right here. Okay, so that's the abdomen. So the 3 body parts are the head, thorax, and abdomen. So the wings are actually attached there again to his thorax as well, so they can fly. And oftentimes whenever you're looking at grasshoppers, they don't just hop away, they'll fly away as well. And they can be often confused with butterflies because of the coloration of those wings. So that's what a grasshopper is an insect like some of the other insects we talked about, like ants, and trying to think of some of the other insects we talked about, but particular ants. And then we have grasshoppers as well. So that's what we're talking about today. Now, grasshoppers, we see them during the summertime. They like the heat. About the end of the summer is when the grasshoppers, they lay their eggs, and they actually will stay in the eggs over winter, fall and winter, and then spring, that's when they emerge. So right now, when you're looking at grasshoppers, they're pretty small. You may find a big one here and there, but all the walks and the hikes I've been on recently, they've been pretty small. And that's because they take a while to get to a larger size. Maybe not this, well, yeah, you can get some this big, if not bigger. So they're pretty small. Now, they do go through a process of metamorphosis, like butterflies and other animals like that, but theirs is not complete. It's an incomplete metamorphosis. And what that means is, well, I have an ant crawling on my arm over here. He heard me talk about ants. Well, we talked about that a few weeks ago, so carry on. So it takes them a while before they can get to this adult size, and ones we have right now are really, really small. So they go through a process called incomplete metamorphosis, as I just said. Distracted by this ant. And what it is the grasshopper lays the egg, and then, as we said, in the springtime, it hatches into what we call a nymph. Can you say nymph? Super. So nymph is spelled N-Y-M-P-H, nymph. So then it comes as a nymph, and then it goes through the process of shedding till it becomes a full adult. Now, when you think of shedding, an animal shedding, you may think of, what would you think about? Well, there's a lot of animals. And mammals shed their fur, especially in the summertime, so they can have less fur and hair, so they can be cool. Snakes, which we'll talk about in a few weeks. We'll talk about snakes, and they shed as well. Well, grasshoppers do too. And grasshoppers, whenever they are in the nymph stage and get into the adult stage, it takes a while for them to get there as far as molting. So they'll shed their skin or molt and eventually become an adult. Now, for grasshoppers, it usually takes about 5 molts. So I have some gloves here on my hand, so to represent that. Now, grasshoppers are invertebrates, which means they don't have a backbone like we do. If you feel back there, right real quick, put your finger back there, you feel that bone all the way back. So you have a backbone. Well, inverts like this grasshopper, they don't. They would have a thick, a hard outer skeleton, which is also called an exoskeleton. So as they're growing, they're eating, they're growing, they have to shed that skin and that exoskeleton one layer at a time. So they'll get that exoskeleton and they'll go through the first molt. All right, so they're getting, and all the while they're growing. So as they're growing and they're shedding those extra layers of skin, that exoskeleton, and they're getting bigger, and they're getting bigger. There's the number 3. There's number 3. I hope I counted right. 5. I do have 5 fingers. And then shed number 4. And it still doesn't quite look like a grown-up grasshopper, right? Okay, like my hand, they don't look the same, right? A grown-up. But I shed that 5th one, and there I am. Just like the grasshoppers, it matches now. So after they go through the 5th molt, or shed that exoskeleton for the 5th time, then they become an adult size like you see here. So that's what a grasshopper is. It's an insect, 3 body parts. They molt. Takes about 5 molts for them to become a fully grown adult. And then once they become an adult, which that may be I don't know, a few weeks. Imagine you in a few weeks already the same size as your mom and dad. You become an adult in a few weeks. Man, that's crazy. But grasshoppers don't live very long, so they have to grow up a whole lot faster than we do. We can live longer. So when it grows up, becomes a full adult, they can only live to be about 2 or 3 months. So the adult females will lay their eggs and then they're just about done. It's a very short lifespan. So we talked about insects, 3 body parts. We talked about incomplete metamorphosis, an egg, a nymph, and an adult. We talked about how grasshoppers, it takes them 5 months before they can become a full adult. Now, let's talk about the importance of grasshoppers. They are very important. A lot of animals feed upon these animals, and they actually will eat grass. That's mainly one of the part of their diets. Grasshoppers, they hop on grass and they eat grass. But they're important because they provide food for a lot of animals. Oftentimes, if you go to the prairie, you may see small birds that are hanging around the prairie looking for food, and they'll eat these grasshoppers. You may have some reptiles out there eating grasshoppers. So they are a food source. It's part of the food web. And I know that sounds crazy. I'm sitting there talking about the importance of grasshoppers. They're very important because they're eaten by other animals. That just doesn't sound right, does it? But that is the way nature is. There's a collection of all these wild animals, and they all interact with each other in the form of predator and prey relationships. And grasshoppers do fall in the category as a prey species for a lot of animals, and that's very important. And I've said before in other videos, we can learn a lot about the habitat based on the biodiversity of wildlife, meaning all the different types of wildlife we find in a habitat. If we go to a prairie habitat, we find dragonflies and grasshoppers and butterflies and spiders, lizards, birds flying over. That means it's a healthy habitat. So having these grasshoppers allow for that habitat to be healthy, the prairie habitats we have out here. So do not dismiss these guys. If you see them, let them be a reminder to you of how important they are and how our ecosystems rely on such animals as even as small as grasshoppers. And you may not think as important. All right. So we talked about what grasshoppers are. We talked about different body parts. We talked about some facts about their exoskeleton and their molting, how it takes 5 times for the shed before they get rid of their exoskeleton before they become an adult. How they have a very short lifespan, yet in the short life that they have, they provide play an important role in the life of an ecosystem and the ecosystem and all the wild animals that are a part of that. So that's just a little background about grasshoppers. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go out to our prairie, and we're going to go with a sweep net, and you'll see what that is. And we're going to sweep net the prairie and see if we can catch some dragonflies, maybe some butterflies too, but focus on grasshoppers. And we'll maybe see some other forms of wildlife, but that's going to be our focus. So come join me. We're going to go to the prairie now. All right, Discovery Club. We're here at our demonstration prairie here at the Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge. This vast field of grasses is home to many, many species and types of grasshoppers, and we're going to collect them. We're going to use something called a sweep net. So just this little net here, very clear, thin. So if we capture a grasshopper, they're just going to be in there for a short time. They'll have plenty of little spaces there in the net to allow for airflow so they can breathe. So that's what we're going to be doing here. And I have a fellow staff member here that's going to be helping me, Mr. Kenneth Nally. So he'll be out there helping us with our capturing. So let's get the sweep netting. I'm going to try to show you some grasshoppers as I find them. They're really hard. So if you look at the middle of this my screen, you can see that grasshopper, a little green one right there. So there's our first one. You see his bright reddish orange antenna, and look how he blends in. Oh, he just hopped away using those powerful hind legs in the back that we talked about in our lesson. And we also noticed he was very camouflaged Oh, Mr. Kenneth caught a grasshopper in there. We're gonna see if we can get a view of it. Wind's picking up just a little bit, but there he is. I wonder what species this is. He has a very large head, large thorax compared to some of the other grasshoppers we've seen. All right, so there's a brown one. We caught a green one just a second ago. I was just talking about it, how he's camouflaged. And we're going to talk about camouflage in Discovery Club down the road. So you definitely want to tune in for that one. But we're just going to sweep net and see what other kinds we have. So we have brown one, we have green one. I'm going to just show you. Yeah, they're all jumping. So pretty easy. You see when I
look at this one.
Oh wow, he's a hopper. There's that one, and this one just can't sit still. This one has like reddish legs on it, reddish orange legs. Also got like a little, like a leaf hopper or something. He's back up a little bit. There you go. So not only grasshoppers, we're getting leaf hoppers as well. But you saw the process that Mr. Kenneth was performing. Just very lightly on the tops of the grasses. He's not whacking it. He's not damaging the grasses. Just a very subtle sweep in motion to capture some of these grasshoppers. And there's so many here. And if you look at just the space that we are, imagine all the grasshoppers that are there. As of right now, I see a bee flying by. I hear some birds chirping. So those would be potential predators for the grasshoppers. One of the birds that hangs out here above the prairie is called a Mississippi kite. And if you think about a kite, kids, it's, you know, you fly in the sky and it just floats in the sky with the wind as the wind kind of keeps upright. Well, it's the same thing with this bird called the Mississippi kite, where the air, the warm air that rises in the atmosphere keeps the bird up high without having to flap his wings, which saves a lot of energy. So that's very, very important. Let's look at this. What we got here?
It's a little tiny. It's really small.
Is it a grasshopper?
Yeah.
Now, as we said earlier, as they first start, they hatch, the nymphs can be very small and they go through 5. There it is. See if I can get down in there. Go through 5 of those molts to become an adult.
There's another one too.
Oh yeah. So there's that one, kind of a whitish gray. Look at this one right here. Look at the long legs, super skinny legs and long. So that can indicate that this guy here can jump leaps and bounds further than some of the other ones. And another leaf hopper right there. All right. Oh, did you want to get that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to capture it. All right. So we've caught at least there's 4 different species, and we've just come to where that shade is in the road to where we are now. And we've already caught 4 species, a species of leaf hopper. So you can imagine if you put some efforts in, you can catch a lot of cool grasshoppers. So we're gonna go ahead and stop here, but I encourage you to find a little field near your house, near your park that you visit regularly, and just go looking for grasshoppers and catch them and kind of see the different variety that you'll find out there. So thanks for stopping here at the prairie with us, and we'll continue with our program. It's always fun going out and capturing insects and looking at them close and just seeing what's out there. So I hope you enjoyed coming with us and trying to catch all these grasshoppers and seeing some of the other animals as well, and just the ecosystem, just seeing the prairie as well. And so until you come out and visit us one time, or more than once actually, I wanted you to at least see the prairie and also see the grasshoppers and other animals that live there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, thank you, Miss Angela, for the story time. We really appreciate that. And until next week, I hope you have a great day, and keep your eyes out for these guys, and also be reminded of how important they are to everything that lives in the prairie and around where they are and how important they are and the role they play. So always be mindful of that, and just do not dismiss the mighty grasshopper, because they're very, very important. So until next week, we'll see you then. And again, have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye, guys.